Coming up on Lawmakers, President Bush visits Atlanta. Susan Hoffman has a full report. That story and much more coming up next. Good evening, everyone. I'm Gerald Bryant.
And I'm Susan Hoffman. Also on tonight's broadcast, an exclusive interview with Charlie Smith, Governor Barnes' House floor leader. And the Senate passes the bill regulating multiple message billboards. But our lead story tonight, the presidential visit. President Bush touched down at Hartsfield International Airport this morning before dashing off to the Atlanta Marriott Marquis for a short appearance. He then made his way to Booker T. Washington High School across town for yet another appearance. It is all part of the president's whirlwind tour through 3 southern states promoting parts of his legislative agenda. One area of particular interest this afternoon in his speech, education, and what ambitious college graduates who do not have an education degree can do to help motivate Georgia students. Just minutes into his speech before students, teachers, and legislators, the president acknowledged the many members of Georgia's congressional delegation and the spirit of cooperation in the wake of September 11th.
There is a new attitude in America today. I'm a proud Republican. Cynthia McKinney and John Lewis and Zell Miller are proud Democrats. Saxby's a proud Republican. Cleveland's a proud Democrat. But first and foremost, we're all proud Americans.
While much of his speech did focus on the war on terrorism, President Bush took time to discuss education and called on students to consider teaching as a profession.
Please give teaching a consideration. Please look at teaching. There's no better way to leave a mark, a positive mark on the life of America.
The president also highlighted the Teach for America program, which places recent college graduates in low-income and rural classrooms. Cabral Huff is one of 5 teachers at Booker T. Washington High School enrolled in the program. He's a 22-year-old Morehouse grad teaching 12th grade English and says he's having a huge impact.
A lot of my kids don't have father figures in the home, and for me to be a young male teaching them in high school, which they don't normally see, I'm almost like a father to them. They can come and talk to me about things they don't have anybody to talk to in the home.
If you had a personal problem, would you feel comfortable going to Mr. Huff?
Yes, because he would, anytime you need help, he's there to help you no matter what. If he's doing something, he'll stop what he's doing and help you with whatever your problem is.
What message has he given you about education and the importance of education?
Well, education comes first with him. You know, whatever you do, he wants you to succeed in life.
Huff and the other 8,000 Teach for America teachers placed in the past decade have undergone intense summer training to get ready for the classroom, and Huff is loving it. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being it's over the top, how rewarding is this profession for you?
It would definitely have to be a 10. It's over the top. I mean, if you just look at the excitement in the gym today for the president, the governor, senators to be in this place where most people have not seen these people, it's over the top, a 10.
These are sweet words to Governor Roy Barnes' ears. He recently implemented a similar program called TAP in Georgia, which takes professionals and puts them in the classroom.
TAP program that we operate, Teacher Alternative Prep program, along with Teach for America, works wonders, and it can particularly work wonders in rural Georgia.
President Bush is hoping his personal sell on Teach for America takes hold. He wants 1,350 teachers placed by next fall. If you can't, for some reason, participate, he would like you to be a mentor to a wayward student, so no child is left behind.
One way you can help is to become a mentor. One way you can help is to find a child who needs somebody older in their life who can put their arm around them and say, I love you. There's hope for you. What can I do to help you succeed in America?
If you are a recent college graduate and you would like to apply for the Teach for America program, the deadline for fall 2002 applications is February 21st. You can get more information by checking their website at www.teachforamerica.org. Also on an education note, Governor Barnes, who canceled his State of the State address today to be with the president, said he is particularly proud that Georgia is already in compliance with the federal education plan recently passed in Washington, D.C.
Natural gas is shaping up to be a major issue for lawmakers in the 2002 General Assembly. Today, the Public Service Commission's Energy Committee tackled that controversial topic. Their focus, not new legislation, but how to interpret natural gas law passed last year. Hamilton Northcutt is at the Capitol live with that story. Hamilton.
Marketers are asking the PSC to decrease their risk of doing business by allowing them to charge certain customers higher deposit fees.
Gas is a 4-month business. Customers use gas. In other words, past customer usage occurs during the wintertime period, from November, essentially the middle of November to the middle of March. It seems to us not relevant what the customer's usage is in August in determining the risk factor for a marketer and taking on a customer who may have some credit problems or may have payment history problems.
If a customer signs up in the summer, for example, when prices might be lower, their deposit's going to be lower. If they sign up in the winter, their deposit might be higher. It really doesn't deal with the reality of the marketplace, that the risk is in the 4 winter months.
Now, despite arguments made by several attorneys for the gas marketers, the PSC's Director of Utilities said lawmakers didn't intend for deposits to be based on the months where the usage is heaviest.
And the statute says such deposit cannot exceed 100% of the customer's average monthly bill. It doesn't say average winter bill, based on customer past usage and market prices. The legislature certainly knows how to say past winter bill if that's what they had intended. They just said average monthly bill.
And no fewer than 30 bills addressing problems with natural gas deregulation have been pre-filed this session. That is keeping the PSC very, very busy.
What we're doing is trying to analyze these bills and be a helpful information source to the General Assembly to let them know precisely, if adopted, what this proposed legislation would do. So we're serving a role as advisor and information for the General Assembly so that we can hopefully get some legislation out that will be help this situation that we're all facing now.
The PSC meets Tuesday and will vote on the marketer's request to charge the higher deposits. Reporting live from the House chamber, I'm Hamilton Northcutt for Lawmakers.
Hamilton, any idea what they might decide?
Well, Commissioner David Burgess says he is not inclined to interpret the current state statute to allow the gas marketers to base their deposits on those 4 winter months where the usage is heaviest.
Okay, thank you very much, Hamilton.
And now we continue with our series of exclusive live interviews with House and Senate leaders. Joining us tonight is Representative Charlie Smith. He is the governor's floor leader in the House. Thanks so much for joining us, Representative Smith.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
We do appreciate your time tonight. Natural gas has obviously been a hot button. It was hot last year. It's hot again this year as our gas prices have gone up, and a lot of finger pointing has been at Democrats for deregulating that industry. There's discussion of re-regulating. I understand the governor is considering some re-regulation of maybe Georgia Power. How do you envision that issue flushing out this session?
Well, of course, you recall, I'm not sure it was a Democrat that sponsored that legislation. I mean, he may have been a Democrat at the time. You know, it's a tough act. Obviously, there are serious problems. People, particularly low-income people, have had a terrible time with gas prices, particularly last year. It's an issue that needs to be addressed. It's a very difficult issue. A lot of folks have a lot of different ideas about how to solve it, and I feel confident some action is going to be taken during this session.
Representative Smith, school bonds have already well on their way to being approved, leveraging that bond money to take advantage of the low rates for school construction. Another issue that the governor addressed this week was making it easy for charter schools to be established and to be funded. How's that going to go?
Well, I hope it's going to go well. We first read that bill this morning in the House of Representatives. The House floor leaders filed it. It's going to free up a little bit charter schools, encourage the creation of more charter schools, provide an additional mechanism for funding of charter schools. And we hope that it will create a number of additional such schools for experimentation, looking at new ways of doing things. If you have a few hundred charter schools operating in the state, our hope is that over a period of time we'll find the very best new methods, those kinds of ideas that are thinking out of the box, what works, what doesn't work, and will help us apply those methods to all the public schools.
The Cancer Coalition has been a popular item, obviously an illness that a lot of people can relate to. I would assume that you would probably have some success on that this year as well. Do you agree?
That, I think, is going to be a very popular piece of legislation, providing tags that whose income will go to breast cancer research and treatment for people who don't have the income to provide the treatment. Breast cancer in women, I believe, is the leading cancer among women. Lung cancer, of course, is the leading cause of death among both men and women. It's something we need to look at and attack.
You are one of the major sponsors of House Bill 1142, which deals with victim compensation. Where does that bill stand right now?
That bill was first read either this morning or yesterday morning. We're going to be looking to bring it before a subcommittee and then a full committee and out to the floor of the House. As you know, it increases compensation for various categories of victims, adds victims such as victims of hit-and-run drivers and vehicular homicides and their families.
Give us an update on the missing children. You know, the plan that was unveiled about a week ago, the governor basically allowing families to have immediate action if a child is proven to be abducted. Where does legislation stand on that right now?
I have not seen that legislation. That may be one of the bills that's going to be filed over on the Senate side. I don't think that's going to start in the House.
Okay.
There's been a lot of talk already, mostly by Republicans, about Hartsfield Airport, the financial problems that Atlanta finds itself in. The new mayor is pledging to cut the budget, perhaps raise taxes in an effort to balance the budget there. Is there any realistic possibility that the Republican idea of establishing a regional airport authority will even get out of committee?
I don't believe a state takeover of the Atlanta airport is in the cards this year, and maybe never in the cards. I don't know. The governor has expressed his opinion on that very clearly. He does not believe the state ought to be taken over of the city airport. If you start taking over the airport here in Atlanta, where do you stop? What else do you take over that is managed and run by local governments?
When we were preparing for this interview, Charlie, you said that you weren't positive you could talk about Medicaid, but Medicaid shortfall is still an issue that is in the forefront of many rural hospitals' minds because that money has been depleted, and I understand that the surplus is even larger than originally anticipated. What is in the works to repair that account?
That's another thing we've got to work real hard on, and it's like the price of pharmaceuticals and medical services. They keep going up and up and up. There's a limited amount of money that we have to take care of those costs. It is causing a shortfall, and we're making that up in the budget. We're providing the funds necessary for it. At some point, we're going to have to do something about those rising costs.
All right. Representative Smith, we are out of time this evening, but we really do appreciate you joining us here on Lawmakers.
Thank you.
In other news, the Georgia Senate welcomed a new member today. Attorney Michael Moore is now Senator Michael Moore. He was sworn in today in the Senate chamber by Judge Alan Blackburn. Moore represents the 18th District in Bibb, Bleckley, Houston, and Pulaski counties. He won a runoff election this week in the race to replace former Senator Sonny Perdue, who resigned his office to run for governor. I talked with Senator Moore about his legislative priorities.
I'm concerned about education. I've said that all along. I think it's time that we put our children first. I want to try to get involved in that and bring some accountability and better standards in our classrooms and work further in the education bill that we had. I'm certainly concerned with economic development in rural Georgia. Some people down there in our district, they need jobs. They're hurting, and we're going to work to try to do some good at home.
And there is another Senate vacancy to fill. Billy Ray from the 48th District was appointed a judge by Governor Barnes. A special election to fill that seat is coming up in about 2 weeks.
Senator Vincent Fort says racial profiling is a problem in Georgia. Fort says minorities are more likely to be stopped by police simply because they are minorities. The Atlanta senator has introduced a bill to address the issue.
The intent is to deal with a problem here in Georgia. African Americans and other people of color are subject to being stopped for no reason without probable cause. And what my bill would do is make sure that if a person was stopped, all the documentation about that stop would be given. That is, what the race of the person was that was stopped, what the probable cause was, and whether they were searched, whether they were arrested, and those kinds of things, so we can make sure that people who are being stopped for the right reason and not just because they're different looking.
Senator Ford says the September 11th terrorist attacks in New York and Washington, D.C. should not be an excuse to allow racial profiling to continue.
There's some people that say after September 11th, the prospects for this kind of legislation is not as good. But it's even more important that we pass this kind of legislation now in the shadow of what happened on September 11th. Because if we take away the rights of citizens, if we take away the rights of Georgia citizens because of that situation, the bad guys win, the terrorists win.
Senator Ford's racial profiling bill has been assigned to the Senate Judiciary Committee.
The Senate voted today to allow multi-message billboards to change those messages faster every 6 seconds instead of every 10. Senators agreed to House changes in Senate Bill 59. Senator Tom Price thought there was no reason to change the length of those messages. Senator Joey Brush thought the whole debate was a waste of time. We begin with Senator Price.
Some of us don't have a lot to do, so I sat in front of some of these signs coming into Atlanta last year. And you know, you may find it hard to believe, but it wasn't 10 seconds at all that they were changing. It was 6 and 7 seconds. Well, they're violating the law right now. So what we would do if we adopted this amendment is that we would say, don't worry about that. We're going to make it 6 seconds, and before you know it, they're down to 2 or 3. And then what you've got is a moving picture. Now, I'll tell you, this is a safety issue. And in the crowded streets of Atlanta and the metropolitan area, this is a safety issue. So if you care about your back bumper or the child in the back seat or your own health, I urge you not to change current law.
And I'm telling you, the important things we've got in this state, to sit here and waste our time in the Senate debating whether we ought to rotate billboards at 10 seconds or 6 seconds. Anybody that tells you that they can ride down the road and tell the difference in that is lying to you.
Senator Brush also took aim at the Garden Club of Georgia because of their lobbying efforts against billboards. He said they should have better things to do.
These little ladies said, we're not about billboards. Well, the only time I ever see them up here in these halls is when we're talking about billboards. And they're supposed to be the garden club. I wish they'd get a garden somewhere.
The Associated Press has this quote from Rachel Fowler of the Garden Club: "We're much more than women on our knees digging in the dirt with a trowel. Now I'll have a pitchfork in my hand." Before the final vote, Senator Don Cheeks, who backed the bill, said the Senate had passed it once and the House had only made minor changes.
And the only change that the House has made is to add the same same 4 words, and it's grammatically not correct, but it does not have an effect. I checked with Legislative Counsel, it said it has no effect. I checked with DOT, it said it has no effect. And I'm simply asking them to agree, and if the people want to get out of here, let's just vote up or down and be done with it, and I thank you.
In the end, the Senate voted to agree with the House substitute to Senate Bill 59. The vote was 30 to 20. All amendments were defeated. That means those multiple message billboards will be able to change every 6 seconds. They will still have to remain 5,000 feet apart. The bill goes to Governor Barnes.
For those of you with access to the Internet, you can watch the show online. Just visit our website at gpb.org for more information. Click on Watch GPTV Online and then follow the instructions for watching live. Or you can look at past Lawmakers programs. They have all been archived. That website address again is gpb.org, another way we try to keep you up to date on what is happening in the General Assembly.
We'd also like to recommend another website that's a valuable resource for information about the Georgia General Assembly. Go to www.legis.state.ga/LEGIS. That website is a great research tool. We at Lawmakers use it on a regular basis.
From child welfare to substance abuse treatment, budget cuts at the Department of Human Resources affect a number of state programs. Wandi Lawson continues her coverage of agency budget cuts, and she is live at the Capitol with more on that. Wandi.
Well, Susan, many agencies that work with the social services community are in the process of balancing the funds that they requested from DHR with the amounts that are actually included in the 2003 budget. The Department of Human Resources, with jurisdiction over aging services, family and children's services, mental health, retardation, substance abuse, and public health, the agency's sheer girth means budget cuts run deep. But DHR Commissioner Jim Martin says the enhancements outrank the cuts.
The real story of the 03 budget is in the area of enhancements, where funds were restored to key programs.
Among the larger enhancements are $2 million to create a statewide trauma system, $1.5 million to cover vaccinations for uninsured children, and over $4 million to add 100 Child Protective Services workers.
There is a new sense of hope in our county DFACS offices, of relief coming, of new resources available to them.
But with so many services represented by DHR, the cuts are significant. In addition to a $3.4 million administrative cut, the department eliminated enhancement funding for Babies Born Healthy, a program to help pregnant women receive medical care. Other significant cuts include a $3.5 million reduction in grant and aid for county health departments, a $2 million cut to the Cancer State Aid Program, and a $1 million cut to reduce funding for children receiving temporary aid for needy families. Child welfare advocates say they need more money to meet the needs.
We need to help our legislators understand the role of the case manager and what they have to do on a daily basis. They need to understand the impact of carrying 60 cases and how that is not possible. You can't do that and do it well.
And as was the case with our other budget stories, lawmakers did invite Commissioner Jim Martin to appear on our program from DHR. He declined our invitations to appear on Lawmakers repeatedly. Reporting live from the Capitol, I'm Nwandi Lawson for Lawmakers.
Thanks very much, Nwandi.
A judiciary subcommittee today agreed to send legislation preventing paternity fraud to the full Senate. House Bill 369 allows a child support order to be reversed if DNA evidence proves that a man is not the father of the beneficiaries. Some judges opposed the bill, saying that men often don't appear in court until they are thousands of dollars behind in support.
Then after that, a time will pass for a period of time, and the arrearages will start to develop, anywhere from 5, 6, 7, 8,000, 10,000. I've seen them as high as 25 or 30,000. And then a bench warrant is issued for their arrest for contempt of court. After coming up, petitions for contempt is filed, and then the putative father appears in court and says, wait, I'm not the father of the child. The problem with that is, the problem is that at that point, that's the first time the courts have had any idea what's been going on, and it can be used as a delaying tactic.
The subcommittee agreed unanimously to send a committee substitute for the bill to the full Senate.
There could be more changes on the way for teen drivers. Bipartisan legislation is paving the way for adjustments to Senate Bill 1. That law set a number of requirements for young drivers, among them stricter curfews and a mandatory driving test. Lawmakers Jamie Coran has more.
Teenage drivers. They are the center of some new driving legislation. Senate Bill 312 is aimed at helping teens avoid.
It would allow the driver's ed instructor, whether that's in an in-school or after-school program in our public school system or a private vendor company, to actually have the option of administering the road test at the completion of that driver's ed course.
The bill would only allow state-certified instructors to give the test at a cost of no more than $50.
And give teenagers another option is how they can get their training that's required with this bill. It gives the private sector a little help in assisting teenagers with their driver's license.
There could be even more good news on the way for teenage drivers. Democratic Senator Richard Marable has proposed some new legislation that would give teens a later curfew, but only if they are going to certain activities.
The authorized person at a church or the school for students who are in legitimate school or church activities that may come in late after the curfew, allow them kind of a written permission slip to get home.
Both Senate Bill 312 and 359 are bipartisan efforts, but one senator says that when it comes to our kids, it's not about Democrats or Republicans.
I'd say 90% of the time everybody's working very closely together on those issues that affect our families, affect our children, and affect our homeland.
For Lawmakers, I'm Jamie Coran.
Senators Marable and Gingrey say that once these laws are passed, they do not anticipate any more changes in the current teen driving law.
Georgia's pet population would be affected by some pending legislation. The Humane Society Association of Georgia, is backing a new license plate. The proceeds would go towards spaying or neutering animals. Lawmakers Julie Turner is out with some of man's best friends for that story.
Pets can be a wonderful addition to any family. But humane societies like this one exist all over Georgia due to a serious overpopulation of the animals. This is a problem that can easily be controlled. How? Well, Carolyn Denise says it is as easy as spaying or neutering your pets.
However, not all families can afford to spay or neuter their pet. That is where the dog and cat license plate comes to light.
Mainly, we want people to be aware that we do have an animal overpopulation problem, and so hopefully, mainly it's going to be for awareness, and then certainly to fund spay-neuter surgeries. And sterilization vaccines are on the horizon, so hopefully there may be even a more efficient, economically more feasible way of sterilizing animals. And that's why we call it sterilization, is because we do have sterilization vaccines that are being in field trials right now.
There are currently two forms of legislation on this matter. Representative Lynn Moore James is a co-sponsor of both.
The bill will establish a statewide dog and cat stabilization program within the Department of Agriculture. The resolution, House Resolution 264 proposed to amend the Constitution in establishing the statewide dog and cat stabilization program within the Georgia Department of Agriculture.
If this legislation is passed, there is still one more step. The license plate program will become a referendum on the 2002 general election. If the voters of Georgia approve amendment, then the plate could be available as early as January 2003. For Lawmakers, I'm Julie Turner.
In other news, to honor one of Georgia's leading industries, Representative Johnny Floyd today spoke on behalf of forestry in Georgia. House Resolution 902 recognizes today, January 31st, as Forestry Day at the Capitol.
We are managing in excess of 24 million acres of forest lands in Georgia. We are providing green space out there. We are providing wildlife, and we are providing clean water and clean air. And today we are happy to have these folks with us. We have Paul Mott with the Weyerhaeuser Corporation, Andy Stone with Stuckey Timberland, and our own Fred Allen with the Georgia Forestry Commission. We are proud of these fellows and the industry in which we represent.
The forest industry generates $19.5 billion a year and supplies jobs for 177,000 Georgians.
Promoting world peace. That was the goal of the Hamrick Elementary choirs. They sang at the Capitol today. The group performed the musical Project Peace under the direction of Linda Johnson. Take a look.
Very nice. Coming up tomorrow on Lawmakers, and Wandy Lawson tells us how budget cuts are affecting Medicaid. We know that's a big problem in the state. David Zelski will have more of our weekly wrap-up, and one of our interns, Chrissy Knight, will take a look inside the world of legislative interns under the Gold Dome. And for those of you with access to the Internet, you can watch Lawmakers online. You can visit our website at gpb.org. Lawmakers programs are streamed live and archived on that site every night that we're on the air. Now stay tuned as Antique Roadshow goes international with back-to-back episodes from Great Britain. That's next here on GPTV.
And that's our broadcast for this, the 9th day of the Georgia General Assembly. Thanks for watching. I'm Susan Hoffman.
And I'm Gerald Bryant. As we leave you tonight, more from the Hamrick Elementary Choir. Enjoy.
Good night.